Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here. We're taking a trip from Kalos to Hoenn, and we're bringing Aegislash with us. Now, Aegislash gets really only one notable move tutor, Magnet Rise. Also, I guess Iron Head counts because you can use battle points instead of a heart scale if you're just loaded on battle points. But other than that, it's not going to be too much. This is like a little gimmicky strategy I came up with. Pretty much the main item you're going to use on any Aegislash is Weakness Policy. And then from there, I was thinking, well, maybe you can Magnet Rise, but since you're slow, you're going to eat that Earthquake anyways. Then Magnet Rise pops, and now they can't do anything to you, and then you can just throw out a +2 Iron Head Shadow Claw, try to go for the KO from there, King Shield it back, whatever. This could also work in doubles, that you're at least getting some hit point bulk, you have that offensive threat, they're not going to anticipate your set, and if you Magnet Rise, well, that might throw them off if they're a Garchomp or they have like an Earthquake reliant strategy. Now they're going to understand, well, Earthquake isn't going to affect Aegislash. Do they want to focus you down more, or do they want to pay attention to the other target? That's kind of it. Also, with Aegislash, one thing that I haven't talked about too much is Wide Guard. Aegislash gets Wide Guard, which protects allies from multi-target hits, which is kind of like using it to just protect against Rock Slide, Earthquake. So you can play it as like a supportive Aegislash in that regard. That Aegislash does also have access to like Toxic and stuff, so you can play a really stall Aegislash instead of a setup Aegislash, and it really makes it hard to prioritize because it's still doing things, but it's not going for the sweep. But then it can like set up a King Shield, it can get behind Substitute, it can do some nasty things. But now let's talk about the real deal Aegislash. I don't care what you guys say, I always feel that bulky Aegislash with Swords Dance has the highest sweeping potential, and it is really what makes Aegislash terrifying. That it's a tanky Pokemon, everyone knows how durable it is in its shield form. That 150 on both defenses is going to be, that's a tough nut to crack. So pretty much you can endure almost any super effective hit, and sometimes even live with around half hit points, which means you can really punish your opponent hard. The idea is you bring an Aegislash on something that they can't handle it. That's a free Swords Dance as they switch out. They bring in something that can handle it, then they pop the Weakness Policy, and then you throw out a Sacred Sword and knock it out. If you have the opportunity, you go for another Swords Dance, and then you can pretty much Shadow Sneak sweep everything that comes your way, and then go +4, +6, and win the game by being so tanky. And that's pretty much how Aegislash plays. Now, depending on your team setup, if you're running some kind of other bulky things, you know, double battles, you might want to consider having a Leftovers. Single battles, you might want to have a Citrus Berry. That way you get that health back, can set up that other Swords Dance if they're not like directly hitting you super effective, and then you can still carry on the sweep from there. And then there's Special Aegislash. Now, I'm not a fan of Special Aegislash personally, just because it takes away a lot of the sweeping potential. That if you want to play Special Aegislash, it's pretty much the no-brain, I'ma trade you Aegislash kind of idea. That you come in, you eat up that super effective hit, you throw out the Shadow Ball or the Flash Cannon, and then that's going to KO them. If it doesn't, you have a Shadow Sneak to follow it up. And it also takes away just a lot of the fun of Aegislash. The reason why Aegislash is so powerful is because of that potential. That's one of the heaviest mind game Pokemon in the game, that it can either be super defensive, very hard to break, or it can just rush you down with incredible offenses, and I call it Aegislash mechanics. That if you're going up against a physical Pokemon that only has contact moves, you really get in a heavy mind game, when to King Shield, when to eat the hit. Something like the Mawile versus Mega Mawile versus Aegislash is one of the coolest matchups, because Mawile could have that Fire Fang, Mawile could try to throw out the Sucker Punch while you're trying to set up some damage, but if you just counter it outright, it can just work in the craziest ways, and it works for any Pokemon. So if they can hit you physically, you have to know when to King Shield, when not to, when to switch, like when to do all these kind of crazy things, when to set up, when to not let them set up. Like, it's just so awesome what Aegislash can do, the heaviest mechanical Pokemon in the game, and it's just lost when you make it special. It's pretty much going to be a 1-for-1, plus whatever damage you get off of Shadow Sneak, and if they can't handle you, it might be an extra Shadow Ball or Flash Cannon, so it's looking at getting a lot of extra damage down, but it doesn't have like huge sweeping potential, which is why I personally don't like it. That without investing in the defenses, you still have a little bit of frailty, you're definitely surviving the super effective hit, but the follow-up can be quite harsh. Now, people like running Quiet Nature because it's going to make you slow. That Aegislash wants to stay in shield form, so if you move last, that's good on you. I'm okay with going on the Modest Nature sometimes, because it prevents confusion, it prevents foul play from being too devastating, and even then, like, it's not affecting the Shadow Sneak too much, because technically having Modest does lower your attack and it hurts the Shadow Sneak, but since you're already at +2 and Shadow Ball and Flash Cannon are doing enough damage, it doesn't really take it away, so it's pretty much preference. Do you not want to get foul played and then like punished on that regard, or do you just want to be quiet and be the silent killer? Now, here's how I would run Special Aegislash though. we go for the Autotomize. That people don't really hear too much about Autotomize, but by going with 192, you're going to get those outspeeds on those 135 base speed Pokemon. I talk about it a lot because it's Mega Manectric. That's really, if you can get over that 400 threshold, you outspeed a lot of Pokemon, even some slower Scarf Pokemon, or some slower Boost Pokemon, and it's just a very nice thing to go to. So with this you have Autotomize. Now you get hit, you speed up, and it's essentially the same thing, except now you're going to be faster. So if that Flash Cannon, if that Shadow Ball scores a KO, excellent. After that you can follow up with a Destiny Bond or another Shadow Ball Flash Cannon, and it synergizes really well with entry hazards. Like if you have Stealth Rocks or Spikes, whittling them down a bit, Shadow Ball and Flash Cannon have a higher chance to KO. If it's already late in the game and some of your opponent's Pokemon are hanging around half health, this will really just be able to sweep, and this is why I like it more. So let's just forget about this. Let's have no one play that ever again. And then we just go for the Autotomize, we go for the Destiny Bond after we have like Flash Cannon, Shadow Ball follow-up, and it's still bulky. You're still going to be able to survive. You're still, most likely, unless it's like a super absurd Pokemon, Weakness Policy gets procced, you get those KOs, and it's going to be pretty solid, and you're like a sweepy, speedy Aegislash. And also, I do want to make a quick note on Doublade. Doublade is like Aegislash Light, that with the Eviolite, its defensive tankiness goes super insane. That 370 times 1.5 because of the Eviolite boost, defenses get boosted on unevolved Pokemon, and now you just have a monstrous physical tank, that if your Pokemon has any kind of physical attacks, bring in Doublade, soak up the hit because you're still Ghost typing being awesome, use Swords Dance, and you might force a switch because they're like, well, I can't touch this thing because I'm physical. You might force a switch, you might get a free hit on Iron Head, Sacred Sword, Shadow Claw, and all that, and since you're invested in the hit points and Eviolite is still boosting your special defense a little, you have a good chance of just surviving neutral hits on special attacks, maybe some weaker super effective hits, and then you can punish that with an Iron Head, Sacred Sword, and Shadow Claw. If you get some really good super effective hits, you know this might turn into a +1. It could do some work. So I mean, if you like Doublade, it can still actually work out really well. And that's how you use the swords in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have a nice day.